When people around the world think about Los Angeles, they often think Hollywood. But productions continue to leave for more jurisdictions with friendlier policies. People call it runaway production. And that is bad for LA business, let alone for LA morale. Today, LA Mayor Karen Bass did step into the fold during an event at the SAG-AFTRA headquarters. She signed an executive directive that she says will streamline the process for filming in Los Angeles and lower production costs and speed up permitting and beyond. Here's a little bit of Mayor Bass.
This industry is a pillar in our city. It's not just about movies and TV shows. It's about good paying union jobs, middle class livelihoods, small business success, and the economic strength of our city.
Well, that move is the latest in a series of local and state policy announcements looking to keep productions from leaving Hollywood. And of course, there's also a federal conversation, too. All this relates to film and television, and we are lucky now to get some insight from the executive editor of television for Variety. It is Michael Schneider. Michael, has this restored your hope for television production in Los Angeles?
Well, I do got to tell you, the fact that there's all this momentum, that we're talking about this so much, that there's some real movement both at the local level, at the state level, and even at the national level, that's a good sign. Obviously, there's a lot more to come in terms of actually getting these deals approved and implementing them. But again, yes, the momentum is there, and that's great because there hasn't been much discussion over the past couple of years.
It's absolutely true. I mean, City Council has been thinking about it. There's been conversation going back to 2004 with mayors talking about, Mayor Bass has upwards of 8, 9, 10 executive directives on this issue. And this one's interesting. I mean, I just wonder what you think from a 40,000-foot viewpoint of some of the proposals therein. I mean, we're talking about speeding up permitting. We're talking about just one city employee needing to be there on site because it used to be more, increasing access to these iconic locations in Los Angeles. How many of these in particular, if any of them, do you think will actually move the needle, or is it just good optics, good politics, and maybe too little too late from a production standpoint?
There's a little bit of that. Obviously, there's always concern about red tape and the hope that maybe this will, cut through a little bit more of the red tape. The fear is always there's more red tape behind the red tape. So this might solve one problem, but there's still dozens of others. But anything that can be done to streamline the process is a good thing. But you did mention that, this has been an ongoing narrative going back to, Mayor James Hahn back in 2004 had a similar order, and I don't know how much impact that had. So again, it's good that we're talking about this, and it's good that maybe this will streamline some of the process, including the permitting process, but there's a lot more that needs to be done.
And one of the things that, when you talk about more being done, Governor Newsom is talking about expanding, doubling the film and the tax credit for this film and TV production from $330 to $750 million. You got some jurisdictions you're competing with, though, like in the UK and Georgia, where they're building out big infrastructures, and the tax policies are even more forgiving. The incentives are even better. Some of those productions have already left. Would those ever come back? I mean, because there is an infrastructure, there's a talent pool here in Los Angeles, but as things move out to other jurisdictions, is California able to keep up or lure back?
You do see some of that, and don't forget, even with the current $330 million, that's allowed some productions to come back to California. We've seen that every year. By more than doubling that, you'll see even more productions hopefully come back. Now, there's a big move also from both producers and writers and even executives to bring back more production to the States. So I think that's going to be a big part of it, too, just the will to bring back some of these shows and films to California, because people do want to work in their backyard. So that's going to be very important too. But the money is a good step. And if they can pass this legislation, that would go a huge way to bringing back more of that production.
Yeah, we need it. I mean, I remember hearing some of the most recent data from Film LA, the permitting entity here in Los Angeles, saying these productions are down 22.4% for Q1. So we'll have to see. And you just were in New York for the upfronts, where I'm sure this conversation, especially from a television standpoint, was taking place about production in general, scripted versus not, the Los Angeles of it, maybe even the President Trump proposals from a film standpoint to put tariffs on foreign produced films, although Wes Anderson in Cannes said, how do you even figure that out? I mean, a film isn't shipped like a car would be, for instance, at a port. But what was the conversation there, and how are people thinking about what might be possible?
Yeah, no one understands how the sort of that kind of tariff might work because so many productions are even, both domestic and international. Sometimes shows may be shot in Canada, but then they're edited here in the US. So those are also local productions. So there's not a lot of sense that there's much there so far to that proposal. But people again, they're hopeful that there is some movement, some conversation. One thing that we do hear is from the unscripted folks who feel like they're being left behind. We're talking a lot about scripted production and bringing back some of those, crews back to California. But what about unscripted, a lot of which now is also being farmed out overseas? A lot of reality shows that are being produced in Ireland and in other countries, despite the fact that they have American contestants and American producers. So there's a lot that still needs to be done, both in unscripted and scripted.
Yeah, and Michael, before I let you go, just with a real quick second, you were saying also at Upfronts, people were talking about the pivot to sports as being the biggest game in town for television, with scripted kind of diminishing, right?
Yeah, I mean, live events, that's really what's keeping linear going, and in particular, live sports, the NFL, the NBA, and that also has a cause for concern for folks in the scripted business, and seeing that there's less of an emphasis now on scripted fare as there is on these live sports events, especially in keeping the lights on.
Yeah, it's a tough beat that you got right now, because a lot of it is a little gloomy, but there's still movement, there's ideas, and that gives a little hope. And as long as people are still talking about it, you're telling me there's a chance, and we appreciate it.
There's a lot of great television, by the way. Go watch your TV shows.
Can we have you back to talk about that? Because I feel like so often it's just what's going on with the production.
Let's do something fun next time. Let's do something really positive. Let's talk about good TV.
Yeah, talk about good TV. I think we made some right here on Inside the Issues, Michael. So thank you for that. Thank you for contributing to the medium that you know so well. Michael Schneider there, Variety Executive Editor. Thank you so much, Michael.